Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang, published in 1998. Now, this is a basis for the recent-ish movie Arrival. It won the 1999 Sturgeon Award because there's generally a year delay on these things, and the 2000 Nebula Award because, I don't know, can somebody explain that to me? Anyway, this book, it's about Dr. Louise Banks, a linguist of sorts, who is enlisted to try communicating with aliens that have come to Earth. This story, it's also intercut with these sequences of Louise's daughter for reasons that will become apparent eventually. The best part of this novella is how smart it is. There's a lot of discussion about linguistics. We get some physics thrown in here as well because it's considered such a universal language, but is it really? And all of this discussion, it stems from our characters attempting to communicate with beings completely different from ourselves. It's dense but thought-provoking. The details given to this hypothetical scenario, they add a plausibility to it. I also like the way the story jumps around with its timeline because it allows it to focus on the science when it needs to and take a break to develop our lead character, sort of, then jump back to the science. I found the ending quite clever as well. The oddities in the story's structure and the various hints scattered throughout the narrative, they do come together quite nicely. Much of the discussion concerning language, it's very dense in trying to develop Louise while simultaneously discussing these linguistic concepts. It would have become that much harder to follow. Plus, it provides much needed breaks to the educational elements. I had to reread many of the passages several times to try to wrap my head around them, because the narrative, it's describing these complex things with a limited number of words. What I wouldn't have given for a diagram here, that would have been cool and useful. A couple times, I just had to accept that I didn't entirely know what Louise or Gary were talking about. But my biggest problem here lies with, let's call it the entertainment factor. Sure, I enjoyed the linguistics and the mathematical discussions, but they're not terribly gripping. I wasn't on the edge of my seat while reading this novella. The story also divides itself between the current narrative and these snippets of Louise's daughter and their interactions together. In fact, these jumps are written as if to her daughter, as is the title. Clearly, these time shifts are important. That's not in question. My problem with this approach is that it takes too long to justify its inclusion. The jumps, they don't do that much to develop Louise as a character, and for the most part, the daughter isn't referenced in the present. The transitions between each are also almost non-existent. We just get these hard breaks from one to the other. There's very little connective tissue here, and it simply takes too long to start coming together. And unfortunately, the eventual explanations for the narrative structure and the whole alien thing, it just felt underwhelming. It all kind of felt pointless. Clever, sure, I already admitted as much, but it felt like it was cleverness for cleverness' sake. Didn't really buy into the evolution of Louise's character either. It seems like, let's just say, her way of looking at things, it changed a little too quickly and drastically for me by the end of the novella. In conclusion, Story of Your Life, it's a bit of a toss-up. On the one hand, its focus on academia, it's reminiscent of older science fiction novels, minus the action sequences, and that's something I've always enjoyed. On the other hand, it's kind of boring, and I didn't find the ending all that satisfying. Maybe I'm missing something here. Heck, I'm probably missing something given that this novella did win a couple major literary awards, but it is the way I feel. Anyway, that's all I've got. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Peace.